When should you buy versus rent? Currently, we all know the real estate market is in a state of turmoil. Rental prices are increasing, mortgage rates are increasing, home prices are still increasing in some areas. Should you buy now or should you wait? In this episode, we'll discuss how home prices and rents are surging at the same time and give you significant stats as to what the future is going to look like. Next, I'll give you some key questions to ask yourself if you're deciding to make the jump from renter to homeowner. Then I'll wrap up by giving you the pros and the cons of both renting and purchasing a home. So it's a confusing time for people that are deciding whether they want to rent, continue to rent, or if they're deciding if they want to purchase a home. Some of the biggest problems is that rent keeps increasing every time somebody has a new lease. And then when that person goes to make a purchase on a home or consider making a purchase on a home, they're looking at outrageous home prices and outrageous interest rates. So what's interesting about the current economic kind of climate when it comes to the mortgage industry is that we're at an all-time high when it comes to surging rent prices, but then combine that with the fact that mortgage interest rates are going up and also house values are going up. Now, we've seen in the last couple of months that house values have begun to kind of come down and settle a little bit. Previously, in terms of a mortgage, it's been an all sellers market. People are overpaying for homes because interest rates have been so low. So we're starting to see an equilibrium when it comes to buying a home. It's starting to sway from a seller's market to more of a buyer's market now. Research has recently shown us that 75% of homes in the nation are less affordable than the previous decade. So not only are home prices increasing, but rental prices are also increasing. This year alone, we've seen a 15 to 20% surge in rent prices depending upon what state you're in, which is causing people serious holes in their budget. We've had a rough year in terms of inflation. Rents are going up, mortgage rates are going up, the cost of borrowing money is going up. So what we're seeing is that people that are renting are having a hard time just even renting, let alone possibly making a purchase on a home. So I can tell you, as a rule, it almost always makes sense if you were to make a purchase of, say, a 3-bedroom house. The total cost of purchasing a 3-bedroom house right now in almost all states, after you have insurance, you have taxes, you have interest, your full payment for that mortgage on that 3-bedroom home is still going to be almost always lower than renting that 3-bedroom house. So right now, purchasing still makes more sense in most cases than renting that same 3-bedroom house. Okay, so if you're on the fence about making a home purchase, one of the best questions you can ask yourself is, can I really afford a home? If you're a renter, remember, owning a home comes with a whole plethora of new issues and new problems and new expenses. With a renter, for the most part, your landlord is going to be responsible for all of your maintenance and your repairs and all the issues that go along with buying a home. You might be responsible for electricity, in some cases water and trash, but for the most part, your landlord is going to fix all the high-ticket issues that are going to happen in your home, hopefully, if you have a good landlord. Now, in terms of buying a home, once you purchase that home, you're actually responsible for everything that you get to maintain however you see fit. Now, the biggest issue is that with owning a home comes significant potential costs. Some of the biggest costs that you'll find in a home when it comes to repairs is if you have a foundation issue. That can cost tens of thousands of dollars to fix the foundation in your home. Recently in my home, I had to replace my HVAC unit. I have 2 units, one for the upstairs, one for the downstairs, and the total cost was about $16,000, right? That's a significant amount of money that you have to be prepared to spend if necessary. And that's not including your water heater, your appliances, mowing your lawn, all the different maintenance things that go into a home. So it is significant, but I do want to tell you that it's not as significant as you might think because a lot of those repairs can actually wait, right? And I'll tell you, when I bought my first home, I made that HVAC unit, that AC unit work just about forever. I made that broken HVAC system work for like years while I was there. I didn't replace it. Then as far as, our water heater, it was not very effective. I didn't replace my water heater in my first home until it actually burst, right? Then I had to replace it. And it was only a few $100s at that time. So you can kind of hold off on some of these repairs, right? Especially if you're handy, if you're a handy person that can do a lot of things within your house, you can actually incur much less expense depending upon your skill level. In terms of credit for owning a home, a lot of people think that it's still old world where you need to save 20% down, you've got to have amazing credit in order to own a home. And the reality is that's just not the way that it works. So most states do have significant help, whether it be at the local area, the county level, or at the state level, to help people get into their first home. There's several different types of loans, but the most common type of loan is going to be your conventional loan, which is going to be kind of your privatized loans. And then you've got your government loans, which is going to be FHA. And what that means is that the loan's actually backed by the U.S. government. And what happens in that situation is no matter how bad the economy is, no matter what inflation looks like, FHA is going to be a very easy program to get into. Where for conventional, you might need a 700 plus mortgage score. For an FHA product, all you need is anywhere between a 580 and a 620. Usually 620 is what lenders are looking for. And then you can combine that with down payment assistance programs. In Texas, we have a couple of different programs. One's called T-Shack, and that will give you up to 5% towards owning your first home. That's 3.5% for your down payment, another 1.5% towards closing costs. Literally, if you're a veteran, you can sometimes get into a home with zero money or even maybe a little bit of money that comes back to you if you take the full 5%. So most states have those types of programs. Really, it's going to be up to you and your lender to figure out what programs you're gonna fit into. So again, we need to make sure that your credit's intact for sure in terms of affordability, being able to afford a home, but you don't have to have perfect credit. You do have to have income, so make sure that you have a consistent work history over the last 2 years. So before we get into the actual pros and cons of renting versus owning, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'll be working hard to bring you a quality video over credit, business credit, lending, mortgages, and other relevant personal finance topics. All right, now it's time to get into the fundamentals of the pros and the cons of buying versus renting. Okay, so here's some of the pros of buying a home. One of the biggest pros of buying a home is that you are actually investing in yourself. And I love this idea. Many people are paying rents and they're making landlords wealthy, and they're making the people that own those properties recognize not only the principal pay down, but also the appreciated value of that property. When you own a home, every time you make that payment, let's say it's a $2,000 mortgage or a $1,500 mortgage, you're paying down the principal, which actually you can use later on if you wanted to. You're paying down the principal in your house that you can later borrow against. And you're also creating wealth for yourself. In most cases, in most areas, the property that you buy will appreciate in value by 2 to 3% every year. So let's put that in perspective. If you buy a $200,000 home and it appreciates by 2% every single year, and you're there for 3 years, that 2% turns into $4,000 and then $8,000 and then $12,000 year after year after year. So you wake up one day and you're in the house 5 or 10 years and you've got a significant amount of money just from the appreciated value of the home. Now, do all homes appreciate? No, but over time they generally do appreciate in value. And I'll give you an example. The first home that I bought, my very first home, it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I turned around and sold that house 6 years later for over $100,000 more than I bought it. And then I bought another home, and that home appreciated in value dramatically over the next couple of years also. So depending upon the area that you're in, you're almost always going to see nice appreciation on the property, and you're always going to be able to pay down principal, which you can later unlock that money and use it for other purposes, to start a business, to do other things that you want to do, to buy a bigger property. A lot of people think that these big homes, they assume that these people buy these big $500 million homes with cash, or that it's their first home, but it's not. So what they do is they buy their first home, they build out equity by paying it off, the appreciated value, and they roll all of that into their next home. So their next home might be worth, $500,000 instead of $200,000, but they've dropped $200,000 in from their prior purchase. So it's actually a $500,000 home, but the mortgage on it, it's only going to be, it's going to be significantly less, somewhere around $300,000. Another big pro of buying a home is that you get tax advantages. You are able to write off all of your mortgage interest, your property taxes. And what this means essentially is that you're going to pay less taxes given the same situation that you're in now with your tax implication. If you owned a home versus renting, you're generally going to pay less taxes. Another good pro of buying a home is that you get the freedom to do whatever you want. I can't tell you the joy and the value that I found when I bought my first home. Was it my perfect first home? It wasn't, right? Did everything need to be updated? It did. Was it big enough for us all? It was. Was it as big as I would have liked to have been? No, it wasn't. But the point is that it was mine, and it was the freedom for me to do whatever I wanted to do to that home. When you're living in an apartment or you're living in somebody else's home, it's not yours. There's a certain amount of value that it creates in your own life just by having something that's yours and that nobody can take away from you. So we've already discussed the cons of buying a home. The fact is that you're going to be on the hook for everything. Everything that breaks down, all the issues, all the problems, are all going to be your personal responsibility. It's not so daunting though. There is all kinds of home warranty services out there that you can subscribe to, where it costs you $50 to $100 a month, and these home warranty services guarantee to fix things that are in your house. So I don't have a home warranty for my current home. I've just kind of replaced everything, but you can do home warranties where they will literally keep fixing your appliances until they can't be fixed anymore. And as I mentioned earlier in this segment, you'd be surprised how much you can fix an appliance until you actually finally have to replace it. So what are some of the pros of renting? Well, the number one pro is the flexibility. You're able to come and go as you please. When you buy a home, in general, you want to make at least a 5-year commitment, depending upon where you buy. If you buy in a really hot area, maybe a 3-year commitment. But remember, there's closing costs. You can't just up and leave. You've got to sell your home. And depending upon the area where you live, if you decide to relocate, it can take some time. So renting provides flexibility. You're not locked down or strapped down. You could literally just get up and leave whenever your lease ends or buy out of your lease. Another thing is that when you rent, you have a more predictable budget. You're not going to worry about that water heater, that HVAC system breaking down, or the foundation having an issue, or your refrigerator stop working. None of those things come into play because when you rent, the landlord absorbs all of those costs. Some of the cons of renting, one of my biggest ones, is that you're making somebody else fantastically wealthy. You're paying down their mortgage that they have on their property. They're enjoying the realized appreciated rates, and plus you're living under their rules. Some of them don't want you to have pets. Some of them require that you do things that you may or may not want to do. You're essentially under somebody else's rules. Another thing is that rent prices are always going up. They're always going up in almost all cases. If you're trying to buy a home as rent prices are rising, your disposable income is decreasing, it's very difficult to save money to buy a home. If you're spending $2,000 a month in rent, how are you going to save what's necessary to move you out of that rental situation for a down payment and then also for closing costs? So we get caught in this rental cycle where people just can't seem to ever get out of it because they're not able to save money because prices are always going up when it comes to rent.